Mr. Chairman. Just a segue from Mr. Correa's question, focusing first on federal agencies. So there's two agencies, DHS and the FBI, that have concurrent jurisdiction over cybercrime investigations. My first question is, have you encountered any issues with that as far as overlapping jurisdiction, redundancy? Would be my first question, because that is an issue in the law enforcement community. And second, the relationship between, since this is the Homeland Security Committee, DHS and the private sector, because I think most of us know that typically the private sector is far ahead of the curve over the government when it comes to typically matters of IT and technology. Is there any proactive outreach steps that DHS has done for any of your organizations to reach out and try to learn from what you all know?
So if I could just start on that, sir. On the private sector part, one of the reasons that we all agreed on the bubble chart when we were serving in the government was because DHS does have a good interaction with the private sector of exchange of information and coordination. So they can improve on that, but it's a good, as General Alexander said, a good public face in that area. The larger point you made also makes a lot of sense, and I leave that to my other colleagues.
So I think that Congressman, I think the question of the proactive steps that DHS has taken, certainly yes, you can see the programs that they're trying to put in place, like the automated indicator sharing program, the teams that they've developed to go out and assist upon request. The critical infrastructure protection efforts that they have to engage proactively, all of those are good elements, and I think they need to continue to be resourced and expanded and prioritized, as Frank says, to focus on the most critical areas. I think that those are critical to continue. I certainly think that your question on the concurrent jurisdiction is one that clearly warrants some further discussions. I think my personal view is that DOJ and DHS, in the form of FBI and Secret Service, have worked out a way to handle that in most cases, and it is they actually cooperate better than sort of some of the public perception would lead you to believe sometimes. But that is still something that should probably be reevaluated every so often as we look at what the responsibilities of all of those agencies are.
I can give you my experience working with the FBI and Secret Service on this. The FBI was great to work with for us, and we had an assumption between Director Mueller and myself, and that was any cyber action would be a law enforcement, because most of the things we're seeing are criminal in nature, and he would have the lead. If it turned out to be a nation state, then those would turn, and we would support him in terms of the law enforcement. I think between Secretary Napolitano, Secretary Gates, Mueller, and myself on the bubble chart, we actually had pretty good agreement across how we were going to do each of those. I do think that we should look at how we organize our government, and is this what industry would do for organizing cyber, and having it in 3 pillars and separate it all out the way we do. We do that in part because of all the issues with civil liberties and privacy and the public faces and that. But if we were running our government like a company, would we run it this way? I just asked that because you've asked and you gave some great points. And the answer is, nope, we wouldn't do that. Here's part of the reason. We've talked about people. If you were in charge of all 3 and you put them together, would you share more of those people amongst them to make sure we could each do our job? Yes. Would we work together better? Yes. How could we get there, and what should we do? I would recommend that Secretary Gates and Napolitano had some great discussions on that. It might be good for you, Chairman, to bring those in, because I think it actually answers some of the questions you're asking, Congressman, and they're better at that than I was.
Thank you. I yield back.